Hello, can anybody hear me right now? I'm wondering if I am live on the video. I'm gonna just get the chat up right now. If anybody can hear me. There we go. I seem to have Queen Anoe there in the chat. Nice of you to pop by. Thank you for coming to the pilot episode of this unofficial, I suppose, Anime Pulse-ish podcast. I'm glad you can all hear me. Great, great, great. I'm gonna just set up the pop-out chat just so we're all ready to go. Just so I can see you guys talking at all times while I show some things on the video feed for those interested. Oh, yo, hey, Vishugo. So I suppose more people than I thought actually would take the call to action. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you for coming in. I'm sure you guys have all been very busy, and I appreciate you guys giving me a shot despite Joseph not being here right now. So, okay, I've got the chat there on the right-hand side. I'm going to get ready to just screen share some shit now to you guys because it's more interesting when you have that sort of thing. Hope you guys have had a good day. Sorry for the slight delay by 30 minutes. I went out drinking, as I mentioned. I went out drinking with a friend visiting up from Scotland, and you know, one of the stereotypes being true, us Scottish love to go. We love our bevies, we love our drinks, you know. Well, I hope he doesn't see this podcast then. In which case, because I don't know. It depends how sensitive he is. I'm sure he wouldn't mind people taking favorites. Let me just get the screen share up right now. I mean, that's the advantage. That's why I wanted to set this thing up on Google Hangouts, is so I can actually share what's on my screen at the same time as I look at stuff. It's a slight advantage to doing this over just the podcast. So I'm just going to share the screen now. Okay, so that should be it. You guys should be able to see what I'm seeing, unless at least on the web page. Let's just double check if that's the case. I know it's a bit sketchy right now. You know, it's not exactly everything's not super organized, but as you can see, I probably have a lot of tabs up open there, ready to go through a few things. You guys see it now? Just making sure. Yeah, so I decided to go with this temporary name. It's subject to change. It's currently under the name Reanimate. You know, kind of like reanimation, you know, but it's kind of got the word animate in there, and it's got the little accent above the E, kind of like Pokemon, just so people know to not read it animate, it's reanimate. Or like reanimate if you're like Italian, not Italian, what the fuck, Australian. You can tell I've been drinking, and I still have like a shot of vodka here ready to go. But without further ado, I suppose we could begin some stuff. We've been looking at some stuff. Why have I got the chat minimized? There we go. Okay, cool. Right, so the one thing I want to first look at right now, even though I know this isn't an Anime Pulse podcast, you know, thank you for the creative comment about thank you for the creative compliment about the naming of the show. We could change it if someone comes up with anything better. One of the suggestions I did get from, I think it was either Black Magic or Zaldera, was Andrew's Anime Corner, which, you know, I kind of like. It's a bit cheesy, but I don't mind it. I could switch it to that if people like it better, but this is a working title for now, subject to change. Anyway, so I know we were not going to cover so much the Anime Pulse side of things. Oh, that was Yuzal. We're not going to cover so much the Anime Pulse side of things, but the first thing I did want to cover, because it's not going to get read out in the show anyway, we have a policy on the podcast that we don't tend to read out things that are over 2 weeks old or 2 weeks back in terms of episodes. So this comment won't get read out anyway. And the first topic that we had, actually, so this is like a comment I usually run a poll on the Anime Pulse podcast about whether this question was whether you prefer subs or dubs in your anime when you're watching it. And this answer won't be read out on the show. So I thought, why not? Let's just read it out on this show here. Unofficially, of course. And this one's actually from one of our regular listeners. It's MidnightCrooh, who says, depends on a lot on individual shows. If an anime deals with a lot of Japan-specific humor or Japanese culture, I'll never watch it dubbed because it just removes some of the cultural nuances for me. On the other hand, shows like Black Lagoon, you know, it actually feels more redundant that I'm reading this out, given that you can actually see it on screen in this video version. But anyway, Michiko to Hatchin and Ghost in the Shell are vastly improved by the dub. English just enhances the grittiness since it's better at expressing more negative attitudes, I feel. Prime example is Revy from Blue Lagoon. Blue Lagoon? That's a drink. I don't know, that's a very terrible chip shop near where I live in Glasgow. Never mind. Not Blue Lagoon. Black Lagoon. Who's an uncouth punk in the sub? But of course, course spitting bitch in the dub, and I love it, as should anyone else or else. So yeah. Oh, whoa, there's more here. Wait, that's not unhappy. That's Usagi is the Order of Rabbit. That's the one. On the flip side, English VA really do a good job with moe stuff. The dubs usually just end up shrill and annoying rather than sweet and bubbly. Definitely gonna go with subs on the rare occasions where I do feel like watching some moe fluff. And there's is the Order of a Rabbit, which honestly, if we're recommending moe fluff, I could recommend like quite a few more shows before we go to. I know it's just an example. Quite a few more shows before we go to is the Order a Rabbit. I mean, Blue Lagoon, aside from being a chip shop in Glasgow, is also a place that goes on fire every few years. Not joking, by the way. Also, by the way, just as a tangent, but there's going to be quite a few tangents, I'm guessing, with this podcast because we're playing fast and loose here. Blue Lagoon is a shit place to get your fish and chips. Like, if you're in since I've come down to England, not really any good fish and chip shops, at least in London, right? It's pretty shit, to be honest. Oh, okay, my cursor's slipping about. That's all right. It's okay. You don't need to pay attention to that. But London, not the best place to get your fish and chips, right? But back in Glasgow, there are some good places. So Scotland, there's some really good places to get fish and chips, Blue Lagoon is one of the kind of, I suppose, mainstream sort of chain ones you can get on some of the more popular streets. It's near the train station on Sauchiehall Street. Don't go there. Where's fish and chips? I shudder to think tourists who come to Glasgow to try some fish and chips and they go to Blue Lagoon. The chips are soggy and shitty. The fish is like flaky and clearly like freezer food, and the batter just breaks apart. Went there once, never going there again. I'm surprised they're still in business. Side tangent. Anyway, so anyway, back to the actual anime stuff. Is the Order of Rabbit definitely one of the last shows I'd probably suggest for it? You could probably do a lot worse. I think it's probably still better than something like Slow Start, but no, it's probably worse. I think Slow Start is actually better than no. This is better than Slow Start. Fuck, I can't think. This is better than something like Slow Start, but it's not that far behind. I'd suggest like 10 more other Moe Blob shows if you were in the market. Hit me up if you really want some good, decent recommendations. Anyway, lastly, you've got dubs where the translators just butcher the script to fit in dub pop culture references or political jabs. These you should also shun. Thus is my command. And he actually decided to put an image from Oh, that's fine. It's fine if you like Is the Order of Rabbit. I mean, it's just not so much my scene. And even though I watch quite a few Moe Blob shows, I could think like I'd prefer watching something like Non Non Biori personally speaking, because I mean that has at least the cool backgrounds and the countryside setting to it, and it goes more on the comedic side and less referential. But yeah, no, it's fitting that he provided the screenshot with Lukua from Kobayashi's Dragon Maid here, because if you didn't know, this is infamously where the dubbers put in like political jabs, as he mentions, where like they make her like kind of like make all these feminist statements about like, was it the patriarchy and some shit, and it has nothing to do with Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, at least in its source. So I think this is overall a very good comment. I don't usually get to say that sort of shit and take these things at my time because we actually have like a time limit on the Anime Pulse podcast, but we can play a bit more fast than this here. Yes, big boobies indeed. Yes, she is pretty much that character. There always has to be one, even in your Moe Blob shows. I haven't actually watched all of Non Non Biori, just responding to the chat there. It's something I want to continue doing, but it's not something that you need to rush watching all the way through because it's like a slow countryside sort of piece, and it's kind of it's kind of a relaxing one. Every now and then I'll pop it on if I have a meal, if I have nothing else to watch, and it's something I don't need to worry about rushing to review because I know for a fact Joseph on the podcast isn't going to bother reviewing it. So anyway, speaking of which, we'll get to that sort of thing later in terms of when we get to a review. I know there's more than one season, actually. That's a good point. So yeah, that's Community, if we put it that way. There's not really a community like on this podcast per se yet, but let's move on to, I suppose, kind of IRL stuff. I don't really want to talk about much what's going on in my own life, but I do want to cover some anime related stuff. And one thing is, if you guys have listened to me on the Anime Pulse podcast, you guys probably know that I mentioned Scotland Loves Anime quite a lot. It's coming up. It's coming up in October this year. It's for those who don't know, it's probably the biggest anime film festival, at least in Scotland. London does get anime more often in its like private film theaters, but it's the only kind of occasion where you can get a lot of them bunched all at once for viewings. And it's going to be coming out in October. It's arranged by a guy called Andrew Partridge, and it's like headed up and done speeches by a guy called Jonathan Clements. And they oftentimes get famous anime, producers and directors to actually even come in and like give like talks and Q&As. And I've actually managed to, during these sort of film festivals, actually meet directors such as Naoki Yamada, who did what's his name? She did directing for some Kyoto Animation stuff famously, such as K-On! And I think she also did A Silent Voice, which was another popular film that came out just a few years back. I know, I want to eat your pancreas. We'll cover that in a second. It also was, before he became super popular, actually. Scotland Loves Anime also hosted like classes where you could, if you were a university student, you could apply to go to classes and even have like seminars with famous anime directors, including, but not limited to, Makoto Shinkai. If you don't know who that is, that's the guy who's behind such anime. Probably, actually, most people will know him from Your Name, or what do you call Your Name in Japanese? Fuck, I can't remember because I'm too drunk. What's his name? He also did something centimeters per something. And what was it? Like he did the one with space. I'm really fucking unprepared. I don't know if that was apparent or not before going into this live stream here. What's it? He also did the one with the guy with the foot fetish who makes the shoes. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, one of the films I'm going to be seeing this year is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. That came out of my... that slid off the tongue way too easy than I thought. Let's go click the blurb here. It's a deeply moving first-person story about a high school boy who finds the diary of his classmate and discovers that she's dying. So it seems like it's got quite a lot of space for what's its name? Drama here. Sakura Yamauchi has been silently suffering from pancreatic disease in school, and now exactly one person outside her family knows. He swears to her that he won't tell anybody what he learned, and the shared secret brings them closer together. The two have very little in common, but they find themselves drawn to each other in Sakura's final months to live. This sounds like perfect space for drama. Actually, a lot of the times I try to avoid reading any of the blurbs when it comes to Scotland Loves Anime films, because I like to keep it as much of a mystery as possible. But yeah, no, there's this film here. It's by A1 Pictures. Oh, Kimi no Nawa. There you go. That's the name for Your Name. Just correcting myself from previous. Thank you, Queen Inoue. Yeah, so this is going to be pretty melodramatic. It's by A1 Pictures, who generally don't tend to make anime. Like there's like a website you can use to check, like a graph website that you put in your My Anime List profile, and it tells you like your most liked and least favorite studios. A1 Pictures is like my least favorite studio in anime, apparently, that I've watched. But they have made some good stuff. They have made stuff that I've given, like, I think 9s to, like Anthem of the Heart, the film. So in the movie side of things, they can make some really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to this one. Actually, it could be quite good. I've seen this on the Friday. I think that's the only one I'm seeing that Friday. Then on Saturday that week, I actually have 3 films lined up. First one is Penguin Highway. And this is, by the way, these are my first times reading these blurbs here too, because, again, a lot of the time I don't even watch the trailers. Aoyama is a serious 10-year-old boy who records all of his day-to-day experiences in his notebook. One day in May, penguins inexplicably appear in his hometown. Despite being located a long way from the sea, when Aoyama sees Big Sis, a young woman who works at a dentist's office, drop a soft drink can I can't read when I'm like this. Why do you use the word inexplicably twice? I struggled the first time. Damn it. Wait, what? the can turns into a penguin, he decides to investigate and resolve the mystery behind these strange events. Together with his classmates, Aoyama happens upon a strange phenomena, which is surely the key to these goings-on. Will their investigation bear fruit, and just how is Big Sis linked to these occurrences? So yeah, this one sounds really quirky. I like quirky stuff. Hopefully it's the right kind of quirky. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Next anime on the agenda is a really big one. Speaking of, nope, it has nothing to do with Kimi no Nawa. There's a famous director, you know, who you may have heard of a few of his films, albeit like why would this be After Dark? Why would this be After Dark too? I don't think I've mentioned anything pornorific on this stream so far. Please enlighten me, Mr. Zaldera. Next, we have Mirai, which is going to be a big one. As you can see from this name here, Mamoru Hosoda. If you've heard of some films such as The Girl Who Let Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, Ami and Yuki, and Boy and the Beast, or is it Boy and His Beast? He's a pretty big director. He's made some of the really big, you know, very entertaining anime films, and it's one to definitely watch out for. He's just very good where it counts. Technically speaking, his films look gorgeous, and the stories usually are quite moving and touching. And this is his newest one, Mirai, which means future. Let's look at the blurb here for a second. It's actually relatively short, considering like anime films can get at least over 2 hours typically, but this one's actually under 2 hours. The birth of a sibling is a joyous time for many, but not for Kun. 4 years old and spoilt rotten, he sees the arrival of a baby sister, Mirai, as competition for his parents' love. That is, until magical encounters with an older Mirai and family past, present, and future send the siblings on an intimate journey through time and space to confront Kun's uncertain feelings and prepare him to become the bigger brother he needs to be. This one sounds like a nice family piece, actually. Oh, right. Okay, that's why you think it's an After Dark episode. I keep like interjecting with like response to the chat. Anyway, now this piece looks pretty nice. I like the screenshots. It looks like kind of whimsical, and it's about like growing up and taking responsibility for your siblings. Yeah, no, this should be a really good one. I need to book my tickets tonight because this is one that's definitely gonna sell like hotcakes. This one's gonna sell out. I know for sure. So I don't want to miss this one. There's always that one film, like I mentioned, that always sells out. Next, we have My Hero Academia, The Two Heroes. For those who have keeping track of me on the Anime Pulse podcast, they would know that I am a huge fan. Well, maybe not a huge fan, because I mean, it's very recently so. Thank you very much for the encouragement. Yeah, of the My Hero Academia anime. It's quite new. It's by Studio Bones, and it's a Shonen Jump show about superheroes. You know, it's One Punch Man, but in a different sort of style. You know, it's not so much a commentary, so much as it just a very genuine, to-heart Shonen Jump sort of superhero show, and I really like it for that. I don't really need to read over this bit actually, because you know, if you know the series, you know. If you don't, maybe go watch the series. But I'm interested in going to go see this. I'll need to finish season 2 before I watch this. But you know, needless to say, I'm pretty hyped because I mean, the anime episodes themselves are already quite high budget and very good looking, right? They're by Studio Bones. You know, I need not say any more when it comes to that. But what's his name? When it has a budget for a movie, movies tend to look even better than the series. Then we're in for a real treat if this looks any better. And you know, the screenshots look very genuine, very to the show. That looks like All Might, man. It looks awesome. Anyway, oh yes, I do recommend. Tight tangent. I do recommend you watch JoJo's Queen and Oi. It's a fantastic show. Definitely get into it. Season 5 is just coming out right now. Season 5 is just coming out next season, and it's looking to get even better. Fantastic show. Definitely get into it. 10 out of 10. Would watch again. And then the last movie I'm going to go see, which is on the Sunday, which by itself is called Hi Kara-san, Here Comes Miss Modern, Film 1. I don't know why it's got Film 1 there. Maybe there's a second film coming out later. During the Taisho era of 1918, 17-year-old Benio Hanamura thrives on bucking tradition. As a boisterous and quarrelsome tomboy, Miss Hanamura leads the life of kendo and tree climbing adventure with her best friends Tamaki and Ranmaru. Benio determines to find love on her own, though her family has other plans. Benio will encounter tests of love, independence, and friendship during wartime. This is even shorter than the other film. So yeah, just over an hour and a half. And, this one looks pretty good. I don't really know what to say. That's the thing. It's like with a lot of these films that comes out, I don't really know what to make of them besides like, oh, the screenshot looked quite nice. I don't even usually watch the trailers that show up here. Because, I do want the surprise. That's the fun thing about it, So, yeah, I can close these tabs now. That's Scott Loves Anime for this year. Just a thing I thought would be worth reporting. You might wonder why Nitju Susume is here. That's to do with the news I'm going to be reporting on in just a second. I've not seen Nitju Susume, but it's relevant. But yeah, no. Film festival, anime festival. Later along the line, I'll be attending London Comic Con as well. So that's another, I suppose, anime related thing. Haven't decided if I'm gonna cosplay or not this year, and if what I will cosplay as. I better hurry up and get deciding though if I do decide to do so, because costumes take a while to prepare. So yeah. Anyway, next up here is a news story. Now, for those of you who I was going to say, those of you who haven't been listening to Anime Pulse Podcast, as if there's anybody here right now on this live stream who hasn't listened to Anime Pulse Podcast. This is almost like exclusively for people who are on Anime Pulse and don't want to have a week break, and you guys are absolute troopers for doing so. I've been covering a story that's been ongoing about Crunchyroll in regards to a new anime they've been starting off from the get-go. It's anime in terms of like, it's got the anime style, but it's being made in America by a studio called Elation that Crunchyroll have founded themselves. Now, there's been all this sorts of drama about this in terms of like, why is money from I'm paying for my Crunchyroll subscriptions going all the way back to an American studio? Yeah, I know. Sorry, Zaldera. I have to. This is just a short one. Don't worry. It won't go on for too long. I'm just going to explain it a bit, right? I promise it's not going to go on too long. So yeah, no, there's a story about that. People got all up in arms about it because why is my subscription not going back to supporting the industry in Japan? Because, notoriously, we know about how, animators are notoriously underpaid and, live in bad conditions and shit. And, like this was like a way of sort of getting more money towards the people we want to get our money to produce the shows we want to watch. It's supposed to be an everyone wins sort of scenario, a conscious free way to, fight piracy and watch great anime. But, it's fell into controversy since this High Guardian Spice thing. That's all you really need to know for now. And for a while, things seem to be quelled. I mean, we haven't seen any previews of the show so far, really, beyond that really abhorrently terrible trailer. Oh, by the way, I do want to say I did actually call it. On the Anime Pulse podcast itself, I did mention about how there were other news outlets like comicbook.com that ended up lying about the whole story and were like, saying things like, "Oh no, the show is very well received. It's only a vocal minority that don't like the show," even though by every metric I checked, whether it be polls on the website, likes to dislike ratios, which are actually like, disabled on the trailer, but even if you did look at the archived version, it was vastly disliked, like 1,000 against 500 likes. There were no metrics for it. Websites were lying about it, and I found that other media outlets have picked up on like the dishonesty within the media industry. But then again, that shouldn't be a surprise these days. If you're into anything geeky, whether it be comic books, video games, or anime now, I guess we just have to kind of get used to those outlets not being entirely honest and having some sort of interests, political or corporate interests behind what they say and write in their articles. And, it's just something I think we should all be aware of going forward. But anyway, the news piece that turned up is basically award-winning anime director from Netju no Susume, that's why I had that page up open there, has done a whistleblow on Crunchyroll's charity fraud. Now, if you don't know who this, what's his name, anime director is, it's Yaginuma Kazuyoshi. He's quite vocal on his Twitter, basically, and has made several tweets in regards to Crunchyroll recently, sort of like fingering them for like, not supporting the industry, as he said. So let's have a look at a few of these tweets in their translated form here. I've got it from an Imager sort of translation thing. So he says, people involved in the anime industry and fans, please read. The foreign anime community is having a problem with anime streaming website Crunchyroll. Because it is complicated, I won't delve right into the politics of things. I'll explain the direct effects on the anime making process. Crunchyroll makes anywhere from $30,000 to $200,000 per anime title. Crunchyroll expanded its demographics by telling consumers that they will give the money they profit to poor anime companies. This is obviously not the case. Currently, anime aired on TV is made about $120,000 to $150,000. There's multiple problems with topping that with another $30,000 to $200,000. Note, $30,000 is the bare minimum. $200,000 is for popular titles. If CR, Crunchyroll, was paying money, it would be for the streaming rights. In Japan, there's Kadokawa, Shogakukan, Bandai Namco, Toei holds those powers. And there's no way they'd let them stream without a contract. ICR was paying for those streaming rights to those companies. It might be legal. I think he meant to say F. It's not typed correctly here. But Crunchyroll customers are told that the money is going to anime creators as a tip for the anime that they enjoy watching. Plus, Crunchyroll subtitles are horrible to the point of changing the message. In the past, avid anime fans made amazing fan subs for free, but Crunchyroll is making poor quality subs even with huge money. There is a conflict for other alternatives, however. With CR, money will not go to the creators. Subtitle is just PR, clearly. Crunchyroll is just killing off and demonizing competitors so they can hog all the money. There are multiple streaming websites other than Crunchyroll, but Crunchyroll has most of the titles, and sure, anime is now easier to access. However, CR has a huge problem. Hearing the foreigner stories, there's also a problem going on in Japan. The reason Japanese anime budget is way lower than Hollywood is because Japan only has 100 million, while America has 300 million, and the entire world as the market. However, in modern times, anime has grown, and now foreigners also contribute to a significant amount of the anime industry. The conditions have changed. Anime makes a profit when the total DVD sales make more than the production costs. There's also stuff on the side, such as merchandise, but that's irrelevant for foreign consumers because they want to give the creators the money. I have to summarize what I know. Plus, this retweet. Crunchyroll lied to its customers that they will support foreign customers and use that profit to make their own series. He's referring to High Guardian Spice. So it's kind of tangentially related. Crunchyroll's inner workings. This is important. Link. Does this problem boil down to the fact that Crunchyroll has basically committed a type of charity fraud? So, yeah. Not good. This is like a further thing, just like the plot thickens in terms of it. I was actually interested to see somebody from the industry itself, not just a journalist, not just, some insiders, not just somebody living from Japan, but somebody who's actually behind the creation of anime shows come out and, point the finger at Crunchyroll. Not that I reckon this is actually going to have a severe dent or anything, or really much of a significance in terms of like the company itself. What's his name? This director Yaginuma is kind of infamous because he likes and retweets questionable stuff in the past, including like he's actually tweeted stuff himself. So, your results may vary in terms of like how much you lend credence to this. It does seem like he provides a link at the end of his tweet. I don't know if he does. That's what they say here, like important link. So you'd have to see any backup, of course. Always be skeptical of whether or not the validity of these sort of reports you get from people. But hey, there you go. There's some further clarity on what's going on at Crunchyroll. Now, hopefully, I don't have to touch this subject anymore until a further trailer comes out for the actual show, or hey, maybe the show will actually release and I'll get to preview it or some shit. That's fine, Zeldera. Anyway, next we have a story submitted to me. It's from Anime News Network, and it's submitted to me by user Zeldera, who says it's basically about how the Back to the Future manga by One Punch Man artist Yuusuke Murata has been cancelled. And basically, long story short, One Punch Man and Eye Shield, the Yuusuke Murata is famous for actually doing the art for Eye Shield first. One Punch Man originally was written by a guy who was doing like indie web comics first of One Punch Man. The art style for it was really bad. In fact, actually, if you go to the One Punch Man wiki here, If I look at One Punch Man here. Man, why isn't it coming up first? You're making it slow down. Yeah, so the fun thing about this is there's essentially 3 types of characters when it comes to the One Punch Man character. Let's just go here with the here. So the original guy who was doing the One Punch Man, he didn't have so much of an art ability, but he had a good idea for a story. And so his webcomic versions made the characters look like this. It's kind of purposefully bad, but I doubt he could draw much better than this anyway. So it had this sort of comedic look to it. And then you had the manga version, which was taken up by the Eyeshield guy. This is Yusuke's work, which looks obviously much better, much sharper. And then the anime sort of goes back and forth between the two. And it's kind of interesting in that way. So there's actually essentially 3 types of the art style when it comes to One Punch Man. Anyway, that's for later. Anyway, we have the artist who was here to do the art style for the Back to the Future manga, which was announced during the I believe it was like the premiere for Ready Player One in Japan. Which is a shame because, as you can see from the images here, it does capture that Back to the Future feel, but with a distinctly sort of like Japanese manga style. It definitely kind of reminds me of something you might get for like the cover art for like a Capcom fighting game. And it also kind of reminds me of something like you might get for like an older manga, like an older 80s manga, like Parasite or something, which is very appropriate given that Back to the Future takes place, well, it was created, like, was it in the 80s? Or at least early 90s. My film history is a bit rusty, let's be honest. So yeah, basically the main reason why this manga is not going to be created anymore is basically all just due to the technicalities, the legalities behind it, in that they weren't able to get all the rights and permissions necessary to actually publish and release this, basically. It might have something to do with the car companies, the film studios, maybe like disputes over who gets what money, and it's a real shame to see these sort of technicalities hamstring and cancel what could be just a really fun an interesting piece of fiction, like a good continuation. If this did well on its own, perhaps we could have actually gotten a Back to the Future anime. And even though I would personally want to watch it myself, I should probably admit right here now that despite it being one of those must-watch sort of, I suppose, Hollywood films, I actually have never watched Back to the Future, just as a full sort of confession right here and there. But, the art style here looks pretty decent. It's just a real shame that, there's no other reason besides just legal reasons why they can't make this stuff now. But yeah, thank you for submitting the stories, Elder. That pretty much does it for that. And I think that pretty much brings me down to my review for today. Yeah, so it's fairly short. I mean, like, I had a lot more stuff planned, but as I said, I got delayed. And so hopefully I can just go top myself up and improve from the weeks onwards. But today's review is of when I'm doing reviews for anime on these sort of streams, it's going to be either shows that I can't do on Anime Pulse for which or whatever reason. Sometimes they're going to be shows that were already reviewed on the Anime Pulse podcast, and other times there'll be reviews that of anime that Joseph, the other host, or has reviewed while I have been there. I have my own separate thoughts, but sometimes I don't feel like making the review into a disorganized sort of debate or argument on that show. So I feel it's just best to kind of like have it tracked on my own separate sort of thing, So bearing in mind, because like when I checked that site, this was already reviewed, but it was something that I wanted to talk about. So the show today, the featured review for today's podcast is going to be Mayoiga, or The Lost Village, which goes by both titles. Basically, I have a thing where right now, when a new season anime starts, me and my best mate, go onto LiveChart or AniList, and we decide on what we're going to watch, along with some predictions on what looks to be good, like the winners of the season, so to speak. One that off the cover and the genres and the blurb that looked good to both of us was actually initially Mayoiga, or The Lost Village. So we added it to our book club list, and that being anime that we watch in our own time and we discuss as we go. So it was something that we just kind of put aside, and we're like, we don't have to watch at the same time, because it looks like it's going to be a slow mystery piece. But anyways, we both watched the first episode and were fairly optimistic, though he watched ahead while I lagged behind, and then he was kind of like, Andrew, have you watched any more episodes? And it wasn't one of those excited scenarios where you're like, OMG, you gotta watch the most recent episodes. That shit was lit. That's exactly how my friend talks. So it was apparently at this point that something was amiss with this show. But I had to watch it to find out. So I had a look at episodes 2 and 3, and I was like, oh, this, this is not just shit. This isn't hot shit. It's just plain old shit, wasn't it? And yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm glad you felt the same way, because that pretty much describes the show. It's not very good, suffice it to say. I suppose the most important thing to come off straight away is the cast of characters, because the first thing coming off episode 1 that came to my attention was that that there's large as fuck kind of cast of characters here, 26 characters to be exact, to potentially develop right here. In fact, I think there's more introduced later on, with fairly distinct designs from each other. And despite where this all goes, which is down the shitter, I do have to give it to the creators that I at least respect the attempt/emphasis on attempt to introduce such a large cast at once. See, they sort of have the idea down when it comes to introductions. Most of the characters have like very standout qualities to them, so that they, leave a memorable impression. This is that kind of guy, this is that kind of guy. And then they have a chance to kind of advance or subvert on those traits as we go on. It's kind of like My Hero Academia, where everyone's like a super exaggerated, over-the-top stereotype, but then we can develop them further as we go on. But the problem with Mayoiga is that they fail to elaborate on many of those characters from then, kind of leaving most of them as just stereotypes, and those that are the lucky ones to an extent, as the rest are just left to just disappear into the background with nothing for me to really remember them by. And this is because only a few of them play a role worth noting in the story. But, hey, let's do a quick run through of what we got here, just for the heck of it, and it will give you an idea as to what I'm talking about. I actually have a prepared PDF here. Here we go. So yeah, first off, we have this guy. He is tour guide guy. 1 second. Yes, it's not the shit, it's just plain old shit out there. You are correct. First, we have Dahara. He is just the tour guide guy. There's not much to say about him. He is just a typical middle-aged kind of guy, and he kind of just shows later on that he has ulterior motives for being here. Overall, not a very good character. I'm just going to take another sip of the vodka. 1 second. Oh, I should have drank that when that was ice cold. That is not so good right now. That's like petrol. Anyway, still better than like what do you call the other one? I can't think. Anyway, next we have Mikage. He's kind of important. He's the glasses kun of the group, which denotes he's intelligent. He's kind of just this. For a while, I kind of am on his side for the story because he's the voice of reason. He seems to think smart and logically about things. But the thing about it, right, and this is going to become apparent later on, is everybody in this story is pretty stupid. So even though this guy is kind of smart, that's just smart for the cast. He's not like an intelligent Light Yagami, like from Death Note sort of character. He's just kind of, he's just kind of smart for them. He thinks like a normal person. But the only worst part about it is that later on, even that falls apart because he kind of goes nuts later on and everything falls apart and he starts making some really dumb decisions. But, I don't want to get into too much spoiler territory. I kind of have a policy of my reviews is that I don't talk about anything in detail past really episode 6. And, anything else that can be considered big spoilers, such as what happens in episode 3 of Madoka Magaka. Anyway, we next have this guy. Okay, this guy's pretty funny. Not because of his character. He's basically a gun otaku sort of like army guy. But what's funny about him is his trauma. Just remember this guy, army guy. We'll just call him Soldier Boy for now. We'll come back to him later. I'm going to mention about him later in particular. So just remember Soldier Boy. Next, we have Soy Latte. she is the first character introduced out of the bunch that would be in that category of painfully forgettable characters in the group. I think she's just there to be kind of like the smart female character, but she does pretty much nothing as far as the story goes. And this is going to come across for multiple characters. So redundant character number 1. Oh, here we go. Your redundant character number 2. Toriyasu is a kind of laid back guy. He's just kind of goes wherever the wind blows. Whatever the mob does, he does. He's kind of boring, has no personality. And what he says here is pretty much the most significant thing that he has going for him. By the way, all of these images I've taken, they're from episode 1. So the episode 1 actually just go for the attempt to introduce every character and kind of get them across pretty fast, which is kind of nice. I kind of was looking forward to that. Next is Yuusuke, the rapper of the group. Interestingly, he starts one way and then ends another way. I thought he was just going to be like the racial stereotype character, and this is a horror story, and I suppose you could count him as the black character. I was looking that he was probably going to die first if this was a horror scenario, if we're going for the cliches. He ends up being one of the better characters by the end, but I would struggle to call him good, to be honest. He's still not that good, to be honest. Next we have Wankoro, who I can't even remember what he or she does. I can't even remember the gender. That's how much I care about Wankoro Mochi. As you can see, their names are all just sort of like they've made them up because, well, it's part of the story. We'll get into that in a bit. But Wankoro Mochi, I have no idea what this character does at this point. I was gonna try and rewatch the whole show before doing this this stream, but I wasn't able to. So I only watched like a few episodes in 2 times speed. It didn't work out for me very well. Next we have this guy, Hyokotsu no Judgeness. He is a bit of a nerd, if you could tell from his name alone. He is a delusional loser nerd guy who gets manipulated by those around him. He is just used as a tool from other characters that are stronger than him. That's it. Pretty much nothing else to say about him. Then we have Narna. Narna, yeah, it's Judgeness. Narna does, what would you say? Well, the most memorable thing about Narna is you get this meme. I mean, not this meme. That was a different meme. No, the biggest thing that Narna does is you get this meme here, where like they make her hat into like an ice cream cone of different colors. So you got vanilla, strawberry. Yeah. There's nothing really to her, to be honest. Narna has nothing going for her. I don't even remember what she does. Another redundant character. Woo! We're batting few. Now we have Jack. Jack is there to be, again, another just a tool. He's a crazy guy. He is crazy because he's crazy. We do not, if you want to know why he's crazy, tough. Maybe it's explained in the other, like, maybe there's a light novel. I can't remember. Wait, is there a light novel of this shit? 1 second. That's the benefit of having this as a... Yeah, it's got a light novel. So maybe they explain it in the book. Oh god, that cover looks terrible. No, it's a manga. Right. Narnia. That's funny. Yeah, so Jack is he's just there to be a crazy person. There's nothing else to say. Next we have Dozaemon. And Dozaemon I feel kind of bad for. Like, he comes up here and he explains like why he's on this trip, and he's like, I'm sick of my boring life, and I've come to go on an adventure and live a more interesting life. Yeah, if you couldn't tell from his art style here, he's like the fat guy, and he's designed to be the fat guy. There's this problem that me and my friend Kwabi have when we watch our anime. Whenever there's like an obese character, or like someone who's designed to be the fat character, just like, you could make a drinking game of this. Take a drink every time the fat character mentions food, or is on screen with like a bag of potato chips, or is eating. Like, they have to really hammer in the point home that he's fat. He comes in, he says his introduction, and from this point on, I'm going to skip images down. All he talks about, right? All this guy is good for is talking about food. Look at this. I mean, barbecues are great. There's a bit where he's like, "Oh, I wonder where I could get food. Oh, why is it hard to prepare food?" And all he cares about is food. And it really makes you wonder why he's here to begin with when we get into the actual plot part of this anime. But yeah, that's basically it. So that's Dozaemon. He is fat stereotype character, and that's another thing. So basically, you have three types of character. You have main characters, the characters that are actually going to be important. None of these characters are important actually. He's kind of important. So you have main characters like Mikage here, right? You have characters that are completely forgettable and do nothing, like Soya Latte, and you have characters like Dozaemon here, who just exist to be stereotypes. He is fat at the start, and towards the end, he's still that character. All they exist on screen is just to say their quirk. Like, oh, I sure wish there were food. Episode 6, something happens. Oh, I'm hungry. That's pretty much all you're gonna get from this guy. Well, I don't know if it's gonna be a burn it. I don't even know if we have a rating system when it comes to this podcast yet. But we'll see. We'll see. It might not be a burn it, believe it or not. It still might not be a burn it, even if I was doing this by anime pulse metrics. When we get into it, I'm just taking my time with this because why the fuck not? Next we have Yuna. I ran into sexual harassment. She's basically the feminist character, I suppose, of them, and she wants to start a society without those misogynistic males. No, you haven't missed the love porn memes. Don't worry about it, Zal. It's coming. It's coming. So yeah, she's come here to start a new life. I don't remember what this character does in the show. I think she just kind of drifts off into the background in the redundant characters sort of basket. So yeah. And so does this guy, Toshi Boy. Toshi Boy is also a forgettable guy. I don't know what he does. I think he's the carefree one. He is a carefree character. There you go. Next we have Manbei and Pitan, which they both exist to be the happy couple. They're a happy couple whenever they're on screen. Similar to, in the same vein, so he's in the same character. They're in the same character as Dozaemon from well, the fat guy. They exist to, on screen, always just declare their love for each other and be like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you too. Let's get married. That sort of thing. So, yeah. That's all they exist to do. The only thing that I will say is, like, the arc, these two characters actually do have an arc in this show, hilariously enough. And it's kind of funny. So, even though they do fit into that class of the stereotype character, their arc is more funny than the rest just because of how it changes as it goes on. But yeah, otherwise, they're just kind of boring. And again, they exist on screen just to declare their love for each other. Next, we have Nanko, who's a private investigator character. She's in the same category as the glasses guy, as she's the intelligent but female character who exists there to be the only person that really speaks any sense. Hey, Birdman, welcome. I don't actually know you. Are you from the Anime Pulse Discord channel? I didn't really know we had other people in here besides Saldera and Kuninoe. But welcome anyway. Yeah, pretty much everybody is Tropeville. That's pretty much describes this anime in a nutshell. You got it pretty much right there. So we have Nanko, who's the famous private investigator female. She basically says the only things that actually make any sense in this show. And she has this weird sort of quirk where she pinches the fat on her stomach when she's thinking. But one of the harmless characters, I suppose. But again, that's as best as you can go. There's no depth to her. We don't even see her anxiety, which we'll get into later on. Next, we have Mai, who comes here. She's here because she has trouble dealing with friends and stuff and junk like that, I guess. It's just really annoying, really. But she ends up turning out to be the stereotypical tsundere character, basically, by the end of the show. There is nothing else to her. She's the tsundere character. So now we have Puko, where she's basically looking for a boyfriend. Let's talk about someone else. Next, we have Nyanta, who's the Gun Otaku equivalent for the female cast, and she kind of, like, speaks with cat with cat. Why did I say it like that? Cat mannerisms. She likes guns and stuff. I can't even remember what her story was. She has more. She's more memorable than perhaps some of the other cast members, but that's about all there is to her. I know this is fucking taking forever. Mitsumini is the main character guy. He has a main character guy design. He has the boring sort of brown, tidy-ish brown hair, is a boy, and has most of the screen time. So this is the main character, Mitsumune. He's the only character that gets a meaningful story arc out of all this, really. And I still don't like him. Now we have Speedstar. If any of you guys have watched Darling in the Franxx, there was like a guy that was obsessed with the main guy, Hiro. He's basically that guy. He exists to be kind of cool. He's the cool character, but all of his coolness disappears when you find out his relationship to the main guy. That's pretty much it. Now we have Nitaya. So it's been a while since we've come to the stereotype character, the tropey character type of the show. She exists to be the fan service type character. She just exists there to be sort of the dumb bimbo of the group. She doesn't say anything of value and just is there to look pretty. She's literally just there to look pretty. So yeah, that's all I had to say about her. Lion, she is the edgy lolly character who is also there to do things, I guess. I can't really she's there in a lot of the story, but just kind of like does stuff. But her backstory is very like lukewarm and only takes like 5 seconds of time, so she doesn't really, besides her design, doesn't leave much of an impression. In fact, that's going to be a thing that's consistent in the show, is like all these characters have kind of interesting, you know, like memorable-ish designs. This character reminds me of something that you might get from like a Kyoto Animation show, even like Puko kind of looks like something you might get from that, was it a Sweet Factory show? Or maybe something like Kokoro Connect. But, you know, the designs are good, but what they do in the show is just trash. Then we have this guy here, who's like the tough guy, Varukana. Maybe it's supposed to be like Volcano. No, it's nothing like Volcano. And yeah, no, he's the tough guy of the group. It's supposed to be like the leader, the hot-headed one. Honestly, by the end of the show, I suppose if we're going to rate likability, he's one of the more likable characters of the group. Yeah, and he's plot significant too. So there you go. There's one okay character. We have Pink Goddess here. Next we have Misaki. She is the female main heroine. And love interest, I suppose, for the main characters. Yeah. Her story, she's there to be the kind of meek, you know, super kind, super delicate main character, female character that we get all the time. And her arc is supposed to be the most dramatic and most important, saddest one of them all. It's not really. But I can't really go too much into it. Now we come to the actual, probably the best character of this show. Not that she is actually a great character, but like out of all the characters, she's probably the most memorable. We come up to Love Pawn. Love Pawn is a memorable character because of her obsession with the word execution. She loves to execute things. She's basically one of the crazy characters in the same vein as what's his name? Where is he? I think it's Jack. Yeah, in the same vein as Jack, and I suppose to an extent, Hyokotsu no Judgeness. Love Pawn is in their category, but she surpasses them in level of crazy. And that's it. That's the whole fucking cast. I don't know why that took longer than it really should have, to be honest. But yeah, there you go. That's the whole cast of the show. Needless to say, most of them suck. Most of them are forgettable. I kind of wish they cut down the cast if it meant that they actually had some of them more fleshed out. In fact, some of them could have just stayed as background characters. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I got a comment there. Yeah, I'm actually giving these side characters more time than they got in the actual anime. That's actually a true point. I guess you must have watched the show too. Still, there's one unifying quality that is shared among most of the cast, and that is that they are all pretty dumb and stupid, which shouldn't be a surprise. The whole premise of this is that all these characters are in a bus because they've left society. Society doesn't suit them. They can't live in it, so they want to leave society and start a fresh life in a mysterious village. So apparently there's a protected website, and they managed to apply for like a place to travel to another place called Nanakimura Village, and it's supposed to be a very pretty place where there's like sunshine and leprechauns and every I don't know why I said it's supposed to be a really nice village where they're supposed to go, and they want to go all live there, and they all have various reasons as to why they do it. From episode 1, I thought they're all pretty, like, a lot of them are pretty naive. I mean, if you remember Tsundere Girl, she's all like, oh, I just want to leave because of drama with my friends and family and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you had drama with your friends and family, so you decided to leave society and start fresh in an unknown village that is unmapped and no one can find you. That sounds legit. In fact, they get called out on this in episode 1. But yeah, so all these guys are on some sort of tour to basically leave society and start fresh. And that's why they all have new names. Money doesn't mean anything to them. And it's supposed to be an exciting adventure sort of thing. Or so you would think. And then like they're supposed to be like the horrors of like, you know, them dealing with the what's really going on in the village. And you know, the crumbling of society, because if you think about it, they're all rejects. They're all kind of failures to an extent in society, right? So like when you take a bunch of failures and losers and put them together, do you really think they're going to be able to live harmoniously? Some of them are left for very selfish reasons. How are they going to actually found a society together? I'm sorry. But anyway. But yeah, the story here is as uneventful as you can think of when it comes down to it. For one, we don't go anywhere really beyond the village. There's like the forests and woods around the village, and there's a tunnel, which you think would be fine given that the show is named after the village, Nanakimura. But when it comes down to it, there's nothing really going on there. Like, I'm serious, really. It's just a rundown village for the most part, with the supernatural side of things being so unimportant overall that I kind of forget that what the final altercation of the plot was. I remember some sort of like giant worm monster or something, but I don't really know the details. Now, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it basically, the setup is psychological drama, horror, but it utterly fails in execution. Now, if you think of it in terms of like Lord of the Flies, you know, why does Lord of the Flies work? It's like a group of like Boy Scout boys who have all like washed up on an island, and it's like it simulates the decay of society, that without society around us, eventually our morals break down. Eventually people stop being able to rationally discuss and democratically do things for each other. We become selfish and animalistic. The problem with that in the context of this show, though, is that all these kind of people, well, they're not really people to begin with. As I've shown you, like, most of these guys are not memorable, and some of them are just fucking crazy. So, like, it's when things go downhill and stupid stuff starts happening, what exactly were you supposed to expect? Was it really going to come otherwise? Were they really going to be able to live in harmony? Like, it would have worked fine if they started, like, let's say, like a camp, and they started, like, finding food and farming, and things started going well. And then bit by bit, we start seeing things go wrong. But no. And then eventually someone murders somebody, you know. That doesn't happen in this show. Because, again, it's not viable to begin with. This isn't that kind of thing. You'll be disappointed if that's what you're looking for. But then there's also the paranormal horror side of things, wherein like the characters experience. So the whole part of the gimmick, without going into too much detail, is that, you know, we don't know much of the reasons why the characters have all come and decided to try and flee society besides what they say on the bus. But the main thing, I'm just gonna leave this fucking image here in the meantime. But the main thing that the main reason why they've all kind of come here is left sort of a mystery, but the village sort of draws that out and gives us a good sort of like context to explain that. Basically, it brings out their biggest fears. So in the woods of this village, their biggest fears sort of come to light in front of them, and we start to see like reasons as to why they're here. You know, like Love Pawn has some sort of like traumatic childhood, which is what's made her obsessed with execution. And you know, Soldier Boy that I mentioned from earlier, why I think he's memorable. Like, he's the first one that was like such a what the fuck moment, because like his trauma is related to like really. Wow, according to the chat, Love Pawn is only supposed to be 15 years old, a middle schooler. Her design does not look middle schooler-ish, by the way. She looks at least like maybe high school, but maybe even college age in terms of like her design and stuff. But you know, hey, who am I to judge? It's this anime where like freaking 20-year-olds can look like fucking 5-year-olds. But anyway, so this guy here, Soldier Boy, his story revolves around he wants to be in some sort of like, was it the military or defense force or some shit, but he doesn't meet the height requirements. So basically he has silicone implants in his head, the sort of silicone implants that girls get for like where they get like breast implants basically. So his monster comes in the shape of literally a giant boob monster. It's dumb and it's kind of funny. it's kind of funny. But that was the first moment where I was like, oh, okay, now this show's a comedy. It's really dumb. And yeah, so that's why I brought him up earlier, because he's the moment where like you're seeing bits by bits the monsters of people's past come up, and his is just a boob monster. I can't show it here, unfortunately. I don't have a screenshot of that, but just trust me, it's really silly looking, and it really takes you out of the show, to say the least. But yeah, so that's why the paranormal thing is just kind of funny. What else we got here? Yeah, so basically the structure here is actually okay. We could actually have good insight into finding out why these people are here and really tell a big deep story, what brought them together and why everything's going the way it is. But like I told you, not all these characters, I don't even know what Pink Goddess is about. A bunch of these characters, I don't know what these characters are actually about by the end of the story. I don't know their story, and you won't by the end. And the characters that we do get story for, only like Masaki and like main guy here, Mitsumune, do we get enough detail to feel like, oh, I kind of like can read something unique out of this. Everyone else has got really boring shit. Like Speedstar's just obsessed with Mitsumune, and like fucking what? Let's pull another example out here. Fucking hell, it's taking me a while because some of these characters have got fucking nothing going for them. This guy's company, basically, his projects failed at work, and he had a bad day at work, so he decided to flee the fucking country. That's totally rational, by the way. Looking at comments here. Yeah. I think it's the same in the UK as it is in the US. People will not let you just take a bunch of. You would not be able to just go on a whole tour group on your own as like a freaking like. When you're a minor, to be honest, it would be background checks, to be honest. But yeah, so there you go. All the characters kind of bland. The backstory is kind of bland. It all just kind of reeks of something foul. Let's see. Lost my place on my notes here. I mentioned Soldier Boy. Now, bottom line is what you're in for during the runtime. It is incompetent characters scrambling around saying really stupid shit. More on that later. Not to mention doing really stupid shit for the overall runtime. Then you have the paranormal stuff too, which is tied to where the story goes. And while it's pretty entertaining at the start, it actually drags it down by the end. Basically, anyone going into this experience expecting some sort of interesting mystery or plot twists are going to be sort of in for a letdown, as everything is kind of gets explained to you in excruciating detail towards the end, after which the anime becomes kind of a poor man's Persona. I didn't mention that. This anime by the end pretty much becomes Persona, which is I don't know why. It was going horror, it was kind of funny, and then suddenly we want to be Persona, and that's kind of what drags it down by the end. But I'll bring that up a bit more later. Now, if you wanted to maybe see blood, like see gore and some like gritty violence, or maybe see a survival story, as these characters end up trying to like survive in the wilderness on its own, you will also be disappointed. As without going too much into spoiler territory, let me just say nothing fucking happens by the end, and that's not an exaggeration. Nothing happens in terms of the survival side of things. But getting back on the writing side of things, because I brushed up on how the characters say stupid shit there a second ago. Here's an example right here. Right here's an example of the script. So characters will say things, and this was like during episode 2 when I first got like red flags going up about what characters were saying. Basically, this character here will say something like, "Yeah, well, money may make the world go round. Plenty of people get burned by that philosophy," and it's like, yeah, no shit. This is them discussing about what to do with the bus driver guy when they like have nothing to like compensate him with. So like, let's give him money because we won't need money where we're going. Like, no fucking shit. It's like money is like important, but it hurts people. It's like, oh yeah, water is essential to live, but you can get drowned by water. Like the lines in the show, and this is just an example. There's so many lines in this show that are just really dumb and make no bloody sense. Or just like, why would an adult, a functioning adult, say it in these situations? Here's a few choice clips I've also found, just from looking online. Well, but if all of this is because of a ghost, it's a pretty convincing argument. Yeah, so basically we have a group of idiots just going around and basically saying stupid stuff throughout the show, as if it was a bloody comedy. Then we have this scene here where it says, even if she's a ghost, we can't just stab her. Yeah, you're in for this for the whole show. For the long run. People die when they are killed, says Saldara. Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah. So that's it. Characters discussing and saying nonsensical stuff. And that's why I'd say, like, to an extent, you might be able to enjoy the show like almost as a comedy. Because it's so stupid, because it's so hard to take seriously. And because it's failing so much at being whatever the horror side of it or the drama side of it's trying to be, you might get some entertainment value out of the show. The only problem with it is like I mentioned with the whole persona thing, by the end it starts going so much into its story as if it's trying to actually we're going to try and tell a good story by the end, that it kind of just doesn't really go funny like all the way. It kind of just goes half there. And that's the thing that I had to be alerted to, because when I went to the My Anime listings of this, in genres it's actually listed as a comedy as well. So I started thinking, oh, am I being trolled here? Is this entire show supposed to be is this thing supposed to be a comedy? And it just got mentioned there by Bertman. Basically, this guy here, Tsutomu Mizushima, is actually the director of this show. Now, besides doing Another, he also has done like a bunch of other comedies. So this adds credence to my theory about how this show might have actually just been a comedy, and like maybe it was just not intended to be serious or like dramatically good to begin with. I'm wondering that because he did Plastic Nissan and like Prison School and Ikamusume and stuff. He did Shirobako? Seriously? But yeah, no, he's done a lot of like funny-ish shows. So it does make me wonder if this was actually just kind of supposed to be this way. The only problem, if I'm supposed to accept it as a comedy, is, like I said, it doesn't go all the way to the end. When you get to the last third of the show, it just becomes a kind of a boring piece. Like that, again, it's just trying to be Persona. With characters overcoming their trauma and shit, and there being like monsters to fight. It's kind of weird in that regard. But that's another thing. He did Another, which was like another horror show, another like horror anime, and the art style in this anime kind of was similar enough to something you might expect from something like Another. So I thought, oh, there's going to be all sorts of gory kills and stuff in the show, and it's going to be really entertaining. Because while not some people like it, some people hate shows like Another. But like either which way, I did really enjoy it just because of it went really over the top with how it kills off the characters, and the very first death in the show is iconic in and of itself. So it's kind of good popcorn entertainment and stuff. So I thought I would at least get that with Mayoiga. It's not. Instead, it kind of is a comedy, but it's not. And as you can see from the ratings here, people sort of were just as confused. It's kind of one of those things where if anything, it's trying to be too many things at once, and it fails at all of it. And that's kind of the main problem when it comes to Mayoiga by the end. It's made by Studio Dio Media, who have done such works as, honestly, nothing that I would give above an okay. Like, I found Aho Girl sort of fun. There's a lot of anime here. I liked sort of Squid Girl-ish. There's a lot of anime they've done. Oh, apparently the character designer of the show also did Kanekoli, which is that ship show with anime girls as the ships. You know, I didn't explain because the character design again is fine in the show. It's just they don't do much or anything really with them. So yeah, looking at Dio Media's work, they've done okay stuff, but there's nothing here that I would give a high rating to, if you know what I mean. Like, they're one of those little like shows that just one of those studios that just could they could do good stuff, but they haven't quite yet. They haven't gotten that thing that I would give above an 8. Like their best work maybe sits at like a 7. Like I kind of like Squid Girl, but I'd probably still just give it a 7. And that's about it, really. So yeah, that's Dio Media there. No, he also worked on this. But yeah, what else is there to really say? All right, what have I not covered? Let's have a look. Thing is, why would I have a blue circle for a face? What is that? Because is that how my avatar appears? Anyway, so basically, when it comes down to it, the show has if you were to look at it in the satirical sense, it's juggling multiple horror genres at once. There's like semblances of it each in this thing. You know what else does that I like in media? I really like, let's say, Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 7 has multiple genres of horror in it at once. It has body horror, it has creature horror, it has the cannibalism, it has psychological horror, paranormal horror. It has all these things sort of merged into one piece, and they all work seamlessly together. And to an extent, I think that's what they kind of were going with Mayoiga, because it also has slasher moments, it also has paranormal moments, it also has, well, I don't think, I guess if you count the boob monster, maybe it was going for body horror. It's trying to also go for these, like, all these different horror genres together, and it has homages to them, I suppose, but it just doesn't, it's just not entertaining. I suppose that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Whether you're seeing it as doing something serious, if you're trying to take the show seriously, you can't because of the shitty writing. And, the biggest example of that would be a character like Love Pun. Love Pun here is just freaking insane. But the thing is like, on one hand, you can't take this anime seriously because of that. But then if you're trying to take it as a comedy, it's not funny all the way from start to finish. So you can't really take it as any of those sorts of things. The only reason Love Pun sort of works is she embodies what the show could have been if they just went balls to the wall crazy, like just made everybody fucking stupid from start to finish. At the very beginning, there's like a chart I made previously, I couldn't find it, of like how a user's engagement of Love Pun will be over the course of watching Mayoiga. Basically, at the start, you're lukewarm. Then you really dislike her because she's screechy, annoying, she shouts all the time, she just says execute nonstop. There's actually a compilation video you can find, basically like Love Pun execute. If I look up execute, oh right, maybe that will come up now. Still spelled it wrong. There we go. Love Pun. Yeah. If you look up this, right, with Love Pun, all she does nonstop is just basically shout execute, execute, execute. And basically she kind of embodies what the show could have been because she's just that freaking crazy, right? But you kind of get annoyed at how screechy she is, and if you are taking the show seriously at the start, you kind of want her to be killed off because she's so annoying. But then by the end of the show, she sort of just becomes this like silver lining, as it were, because she's the only entertaining and memorable character you have by the end, because everybody else is just butchered or just fucking boring by the end. So yeah, Love Pun's a special thing. There's a special place in my heart, I suppose, when it comes to the show of Love Pun. Like by the end, I watched this show like over a year ago, and she's probably the most memorable part of it. So for that, I suppose I'd give her props, I guess. Just looking at these clips here, I'm looking at a comment here. It's Mario Kada unrestrained, trying to be edgy with people suffering from unhappiness, but never connecting with the viewers. Yeah, Mario Kada, I believe she did this mermaid show. She has done like a mermaid anime show as well in the past. I haven't watched it, but you know, she seems to be a fairly famous figure in the industry. I don't know much about Mario Kart, but yeah, apparently she had a plan to play in the writing of the show. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say this is like her best work, I'm afraid, by the end. But yeah. So where are we by the end of this? Is there really anything else to say? Yeah, okay. The anime with the fish girl or the mermaid girl is apparently called Nagi no Asukara. I looked that up. I could just look that up right now. Nagi no. Yeah, there it goes. I was interested in checking out this show, but I've not heard too many good things. Oh, it's got an 8.2. It actually has a decent rating on my anime list. Yeah, I was fairly interested in checking this out, but by the end of it, I just you know, it just fell by the wayside. It's got some good ratings here. If it's related on if it's actually reviewed on Anime Pulse, I won't. But if it's not, I might watch it just so I can write a review of it. Apparently, Mario Kart is a huge name. But yeah, so this kind of fell for the wayside. I guess she just tried to write too many things in at once. There's too many characters, there's too many plots, there's too many genres, there's too many everything trying to juggle with Mayoiga. And I suppose that sort of sums up what the end result turned out to be, a 5.6 on my anime list. I still have a soft spot for it to an extent, but it's not quite bad. Like, it's not so much of a so bad it's good story to the level where I could really recommend it to you for that so bad it's good sort of watch. That sort of title kind of has to go for something like an Osama game. Like Osama game, for instance, I could recommend people look at that fucking image. I could recommend Osama game to people on the basis that it is kind of like so bad that it's kind of funny. Wait, what? It's getting a second season? Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. I didn't even fucking know that until now. That's hilarious. I can't believe it's getting a second season. Sorry. Yeah, no, I could recommend something like Osama Game, the animation, in terms of being like so bad it's good. I don't. Oh, here we go. I don't know if it's been reviewed, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on Nagi no Asakura. Let's have a look. Let me double check for you, right? I'll give it a fair watch either way. Nagi no Asakura. It's not covered. Well, if that's a request, I don't get many requests to review things. I don't get many requests to review things when it comes to Anime Pulse, except for Tokyo Ghoul. So I'll add this to my my bucket list of stuff that I'm going to watch for review purposes for Anime Pulse. So yeah, if you want me to, then I will watch Nagi no Asakura just for the purposes of reviewing it. I didn't even know it got a second season. I just knew it got one season. So yeah, I'll go check that out just to see if it's any good. Yeah. So I can't really recommend Osama Game on a so bad it's good level. I can't obviously recommend it in good faith as a serious drama, mystery, horror, comedy, any of those things, unfortunately. And I can't recommend it in a so bad it's good thing in the same way I could something like Osama Game, which is just so incompetent that I can't wait to review it for Anime Pulse this October. Maybe like for Halloween or some shit. Then again, I'm going to be away on Halloween. So it'll have to be a belated Halloween review of Osama Game. But I've been saving this one just for that occasion because this anime, holy shit, I am so glad it's getting a season 2. I can't believe it. Is it by Studio 7? Oh my god, it's by Studio 7. I want to do featurettes when it comes to these live shows because there's some things I want to do when it comes to. I know I'm just kind of waffling on now. I should probably end this podcast. How long have we been going on for actually at this point? Let me just double check. How long have we been going? It doesn't tell me here. Fuck. Blah blah blah. But no, I have ideas for things I want to do. I wanted to do like a featurette of like voice actors, do other stuff that I can't typically do on the Anime Pulse podcast. Like, let's talk about voice actors, let's talk about studios and stuff. And so like one of those things I definitely would want to talk about, like just have a look at their work and then like give a rough idea to the community. Oh my god, I'm going an hour and a half. Holy shit. I should probably end this pretty soon. But yeah, I would like to be able to do features on like studios and do more industry sort of stuff, look in depth in terms of like creators and one studio I would definitely want to look at Studio 7 because they're one of those studios like give an overall feel, I suppose. Yeah, because I don't typically get to do that sort of stuff on the Anime Pulse podcast, and I think that would be a fine. I think that would be a fine sort of thing to do on the side. Go more in depth than just doing my casual sort of top 10 stuff or announcements. Or on that note, it is announced that the newest Sword Art Online anime series that's going to be released. In other news, is going to be 52 episodes long, which is pretty crazy to me. It's actually genuinely a super long series now. So the next, if for those of you who are fans of Sword Art Online, look forward to 52 episodes of it. There you go. But no, Studio 7 is one of those studios that it's like, I get the feeling that they want to kind of be a hentai studio, but have a better budget because they do just all that. You scroll here and it's like, oh, normal stuff, kind of, and then you're just like, whoa, this is not monetizable. Good thing I don't monetize these streams, eh? No, but seriously, yeah. No, the show's not finished, Saldero. I'm gonna close up pretty soon, I suppose. I did the review. There's not really much else to talk about in terms of I could talk about the studio, but I think I'll save that for like maybe when I do Osama game. Actually, the only anime I genuinely like from the studio, which is I suppose more than I can say for Dio Medio, is I actually do like this anime. I like Dana ga Nani wo Itieru wa Wakirenai Ken. I like recently my husband has been restless or whatever. Was it what? Sorry, I can't. No, I don't understand what my husband is saying. What the fuck was I thinking? Is that what Francis do? I can't understand what my husband is saying. I genuinely actually like this show. So Studio 7 has made good stuff in the past. But and that's more like I can say for Dio Medio, which have made more good anime by my standards, like more anime I'd say considered like kind of good. But they haven't made anything that I would like as much as this. So I guess that's kind of like a double-edged sword thing. Yeah, this is a fantastic short series. It's such a good short series that I'm actually kind of surprised I haven't went and checked out season 2 of it. It's one of those things where I was very happy with the ending, where I didn't really need any more, but I will probably watch more just in case. It's probably just more of the same, but I kind of get the idea. There's no rush with it. But no, seriously, Dio Media, holy shit, I should stop scrolling down. When it comes to not Dio Media, Studio 7, they're one of those studios. Like with other studios, I get the impression that they do all these super ecchi shows just so they can make some money, so they can fund their passion projects, the shows that they really want to do. I think Studio 7 just wants to do just like non-stop ecchi stuff. Although they did do this show that I previewed last season, Kyoto Terumachi Sanjo no Homes. I was like, whoa, a surprisingly tame show from what you guys can actually tend to put out. Season 2 of Dana actually goes somewhere. I would recommend you check it out. Okay, all right. If that's the case, I will go check it out. I guess maybe she has a kid. I guess that's what, because season 1 ends with her being pregnant, so I suppose like it's about being a mother and stuff. And I mean, the husband, despite being in the title, doesn't show up in this poster here. But yeah. Whew. Where are we now? I think we are done though. I think. Is there really anything else to talk about? News stories? Close this. I don't know. He's a staff that worked on Mayoiga, but I didn't really have anything to say about him. What a great frame to end it on. Even if she's a ghost, we can't just stab her. Oh, there you go. See, more knowledgeable people here in the chat than me. Apparently, the author of Lately, my husband, I can't understand I can't understand what my husband is saying. Also did Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Which is, I suppose they have a similar feel-ish to them, I guess, to an extent. I also really do like the heart of both of those shows. So yeah, Kobayashi's Dragon Maid has a good heart to it. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're both they're both by the same author, but that's very good knowledge. Thanks for the insight, Mr. Bertman number 4. I think we're about good to go now. This show will be published as a YouTube video along with the chat you guys have been providing with us throughout the show. Next time I promise to do better. I'll have more visual assets actually improved, visual assets actually presentable, and perhaps some sound involved, like, you know, actual video sound coming out. So yeah, I apologize. This being pretty much like a PowerPoint presentation of me just kind of scrolling through tabs and clicking back and forth and scrolling up and down in a PDF that I made very quickly. You know, it's a long road ahead, and you know, working on video content and stuff in the future. But thank you very much for giving me a shot, you guys. I think that about does it for here. I don't really have like a rating to give Mayoiga. In fact, wait a second. If I log into my anime list account, I can probably tell you exactly what I rated Mayoiga. Yeah, I suppose so. YouTube restrictions. I mean, I could probably use an encoder and stuff to improve things like that. But no, I thank you for the encouragement. I wasn't sure if I'm surprised I lasted an hour and a half doing it solo, to be honest. I probably waffled way too much, like mumbled non-fucking stop. So, what did I give Mayoiga? Lost. Wait, I didn't. Did I not rate the Lost Village on my anime list? Oh, I didn't rate it. Okay, if I was to rate it, you can see me rating it right now. I would rate this show a God. Like, it's like, oh, I'm struggling here because the funny bits are really funny to the point of maybe being a good, but the rest of it's kind of like, then it's got shit bits, and then it's kind of the rest of it's meh. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to be honest. It's bad. It's bad, but saved by some funny bits. It did make me laugh, and at least it gave me stuff to talk about. So I will give it a bad. It's a number 4 out of 10, personally. I don't have a rating system for this podcast at the moment, so it's gonna be that. I'm gonna have to get musical jingles for this show, like royalty-free musical jingles that happen between the reviews and news, kind of like what we have in Anime Pulse. And like a Nekomimi like song to like put on here. But yeah, that's worth thinking about in the future. But yeah, until then, I don't actually have any. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a fair rating. Thank you for showing up, everybody. I don't have a good rating. I mean, I don't have a good sign off for the show. So keep watching anime, I guess, or don't. Most of it's not that good, but you know. Okay, and that's it. That's pretty much it. I should probably close the stream and stuff. Thank you very much, Quinn Inoue, Zaldera, and Bertman number 4, and Shugo, if you're still here, for coming in and giving me a shot. Goodbye and good luck. That's a good way of putting it. Yes, thank you. I guess I'll end it here. Thank you. That was awkward. Signing off is awkward as fuck. Bye.